Welcome to episode 4 of the YouTube Fuckn Beef channel. I'm Dean, glad to have you here. So many things to talk about. I've got a lot of subjects to cover today. So let's get right into the jack of the shit, man. Trudeau and Francois Legault. They've made a deal, obviously, and I would say the Bloc Québécois as well, Blanchette, they all have been in a little bit of cahoots as of late. Bill C-10, and then, of course, the favor they wanted from Trudeau. As I said in one of my TikToks, that it's obvious if you're going to make a deal like this with the Prime Minister, where you're going to back him completely, where you rarely ever do, why? Well, we know that the Bloc and the provincial Quebec government, they are absolutely, without doubt, 100% for Quebec. Now, obviously, the provincial government should be that way, and their federal representatives are that way as well. All in, all for Quebec. Again, I have said it before, this is not an issue with me because that is their mandate. And the people that voted them in those positions gave them that mandate to do that. And they gave them a sizable party as well, too. So you cannot complain when that party, the federal party, does everything that they say they're going to do right off the get-go. And the get-go is it's all about getting stuff for Quebec and making sure that Quebec is not waffled to the side. And that's the other part that kind of makes me go, why? You have a majority of seats literally in this country, darn near. And without your votes, no government will ever form. So you have a great deal of power in this country. And that's just in the voting system. So I don't understand separatist parties, even though the PQ and the Bloc Québécois are, generally speaking, separatist parties, a nation within a nation party. And basically what we have to do is just remember those are their mandates. Those are the facts for these guys, that they are there to represent Quebec and Quebec interests only. And they're upfront about it. So how can you fault the guys? I don't. As long as they're not trying to separate the country into 1,000 pieces, a while ago, I may have been all angry at that. But now things have changed. With Trudeau and his what apparently looks like another mandate will be given to him by the voters out east. And that's going to be due to a lot of reasons, but it's going to come mostly down to the division within the Conservative Party. I don't know if it's the Liberals that are doing this. I don't know what it is, but there is a massive amount of division within and it is the Liberals doing this. They're reveling in this. There's no question of that. But what I mean is a lot of the liberal ideologies and the centrists are pushed into being in a position where they agree with the Liberals because the extreme right is so far right that it just doesn't make any sense. And what we're going to see in the next election is the far right exerting their small percentage and majority muscles. But again, that's fine. They're pretty upfront about it, don't you think? I'm a centrist again. I am a centrist. There's no question of it. But, yeah, these guys flex their muscles. So it's all going to come from this divisive politics that are going on in the East, where Trudeau is gladly giving up any kind of moral capacity to even be fair to another part of the country or parts of the country, and expecting all these other provinces that have signed on to the Constitution of Canada that we are to allow a province that hasn't signed on to the Constitution and refused to back in 82 when his old man tried to change things and didn't succeed getting Quebec involved. I mean, they were at the height of their separatist feelings towards the rest of Canada. And now they're very comfortable in their position in Canada, especially if they can be called a nation within a nation. And they can change our constitution that they didn't sign on to. I know this is all coming around and gone in a few different directions, but that's the way I go, and I will come around to my conclusion in the end, that all of these different things, including a long-term Trudeau government, this is what his goal is. And if all of this division in the Conservatives in the Ontario West federal party, if they lose the Alberta, the Saskatchewan, and even some of those votes, it may not make much of a difference out west, but it could make a huge difference out east. If he has a majority again, speaking of JT and the Liberal Party, we will see far more liberties taken by Quebec against our Constitution. The language law thing, which all of this revolves around, is not something that I'm especially against. The population in Quebec is, the French population is, and has on a pretty regular basis been dwindling in the province. And I understand that they want to maintain their French-speaking language position. They are unique, and they have been here as long as any of the English, longer than any of the English colonials. The French colonials were here first, don't forget. And so, I don't know. It's a tempered thing, but they are Canadians nonetheless, and we should treat them as such, even though they haven't signed on to it. And I don't know, would you get a majority of Quebecers to Quebecois to sign on to the Constitution now if you put it to them as a vote? I don't know. But back to the deal that Legault and Trudeau have made, it has basically put Quebec in a unique position to open the door for other provinces to make unilateral changes to the Constitution. Alberta, for instance, I'm going to use Alberta because, hey, man, that's where I live. And in pain about the NHL playoffs right now. If we can change it like they can, which we should be able to, hell, we signed on to it. Seems to me Alberta, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, and all the others out east, the Atlantic provinces that signed on to this deal, they have more rights than Quebec do to unilaterally change the Constitution as it applies to them, don't you? I mean, it makes perfectly good sense. We're on the team. They're not, yet they get to change our Constitution. That does not seem right to me. So why would Trudeau do all of this, let them say it, and actually publicly say, yeah, they can do that, and support them so fast without any talks and committees and anything like that? Well, why did he do it? It was the deal that was made for C10 between Mr. Blanchet, and it was the deal to encourage Quebecers to accept the Legault bill, the French-speaking bill, that they are going to create. And in the process, he also boosts himself in Quebec. If he comes out of the Atlantic provinces in the lead and he hits Quebec and let's say Blanchet loses some seats, they're going to go to Trudeau. They're not going to go to the Conservatives. So there's your majority right there. Because by the time he hits the GTA and Southern Ontario, he's got the majority locked. By the time it gets to the West and the conservative vote is split, and we're seeing, let's say, the PPC getting those extreme right-wing votes, the Dunning-Kruger gang. Sorry, guys. I mean, I not everybody is in that gang, but there's a lot of undercurrents in the extreme right that is racist. So if those votes are split, we could see a very weak conservative opposition, barely. We could see the bloc being stronger or less. It depends on how the voters perceive Trudeau's moves here. But I think that he'll get more votes, more seats out of Quebec this time around. So it will come down to Ontario. How does Ontario perceive this assault on the team members of our Constitution? How do those people out east in Ontario that will definitely give this guy a majority, like they're the third baseman coach, swinging him in or saying stay at third base? That's what it's going to come down to. So, Ontario, you're the third base coach this coming spring, one-dose summer election. You guys are. So it's going to be up to you guys to make the decision. Do you believe that he did a good job during this pandemic getting the vaccine rollout done? I mean, just today, again, I heard that ramping up term. Yet Manitoba is screaming for doses, screaming for them, screaming for help. Want to make deals with American states to bring some of their supply across the border so we can get at it. So it seems to me the vaccine rollout, even for the West, which I didn't expect to be working properly at all because we have conservative parties leading the provinces out here. And the big threats were in the major population zones. So again, kind of understand a majority of the vaccines going out east. But the rollout has been a disaster. People are absolutely sweating big time to try and get some of these things, trying to get them in the arms. So go get it if it's the right choice for you. Okay? If you don't want to get it, I got no beef with you. If you do want to get it, I got no beef with you. It's your choice, your body, not mine. So it looks like there's going to be an election. It looks like Trudeau is pandering to the Quebec provincial and federal leaders to get votes out of Quebec. Meanwhile, the NDP, as usual, lets Trudeau run the show because he doesn't want an election. Now, I just saw in the National Post a opinion poll released last week to have O'Toole's Conservative Party neck and neck with Justin Trudeau's Liberals. And that's 3 out of 4 opinion polls released in the last week. Wow, I was kind of shocked to see that. Only a couple of weeks ago did I see O'Toole do something in the House of Commons during question period that I thought was, wow, that was very Pierre Poilievre-like. He came at him pretty hard. I was impressed with him. But that's the first time I actually saw any of his House of Commons question period action that I was like, wow, good job, bud. Good job. Take it to the little prick. I did just say that. I apologize there, JT. I don't think you're a prick. I just think you're a moron. So, has Aaron O'Toole turned a corner? I'm not so sure. Again, as we mentioned, Quebec is the playground that everybody wants to go down that big slide and get all those seats. So I don't think O'Toole's there yet. If Southern Ontario and Alberta and the Western provinces, Saskatchewan and Manitoba, stick to their guns and vote all conservative, like we did last time, there could be a shot at a conservative minority government. But we know how long a conservative minority government would last. Not long. It would be a Joe Clark routine, kids. It would. It wouldn't last long. So I don't know what to do this coming election, but vote your conscience. Do what you feel is right. But I don't think the Liberal guy has done a good enough job to retain his seat. And I also feel that he's been very, very stupid with the Chinese issue. And I don't think he's shown enough BALLS against the Iranian situation of them shooting down one of our planes with Canadian citizens on it. So, even in just some of the things, as I said last week at some time during my ramblings, that if I had to give both of these guys zeros, and I'm talking about O'Toole and Justin, and start with just zeros, a clean chalkboard, a clean marker board, a clean slate, whatever you want to call it, and compare the two men by what they've done, not what they're going to do or what they say they're going to do, but what they've done already. I would put my quarter, my 10 cents, my nickel behind a man who actually signed up to serve his country. That's a check immediately in O'Toole's favor. That's not a glamorous job. It's you're doing it for your country because you know you're not going to get paid great. You know you've got weird hours. And you know that you may have to put your life on the line for your country. And then we compare that to Justin Trudeau. And this is just a 0-to-0 character comparison between the two. What has he done in his life to even quasi-qualify him for this job? And what I mean is a man who has signed on the dotted line to serve his country compared to a man who signed no dotted lines ever to serve their country. This could apply for me, too, if I was going up against a guy who served his country and I was ethics scandal after scandal after scandal and facades of his actual misogynistic views and so on. You can see I'm biased, obviously, but I don't know O'Toole well enough. But what I do know of him is he's always been fairly classy as a politician can be, but he has signed up to serve his country. He volunteered to go into a not very glamorous job, but to serve his country. And that to me is a character check right there, man. Boom. Boom. Over a trust fund lad who got the best education, the best one-sided treatment that a substitute drama teacher could get, if the rumors are true. I just, what has he actually done for his country before he became a politician? What did he do? Well, he traveled exclusively and rampantly across the country, right? He went to only the best schools. Probably the job he did get out in BC was why? His last name. Why did he get the leadership position? His last name with the Liberals. And I could go on of all the negatives about Trudeau, but O'Toole, I can't find any yet because we don't know him well enough. We don't know how he is, but we've had 6 years of Trudeau as a leader and how long ever he was in opposition. Those years are so long ago, right? So that's that with that subject. I mean, I really don't think that Trudeau has the character or the brains, really, to understand what he has done by pandering to Quebec for votes to stay in power or get his majority back. Yes, it's electioneering and it's politics. I get that. But I don't find it very positive politics or good politics, character politics. Maybe those are all oxymorons, but when you do something for one province that hasn't signed on to your constitution, that literally slaps 6, 7 other provinces, right? Literally in the face. Every other province that is on that constitution. And now we're going to see every province want to change the constitution as it applies to them. Let's see how that goes when that happens, because it's inevitable. And I can tell you this, if there's a majority Liberal government again, it will happen. These changes, a nation within a nation, how come we can't build a pipeline across the country to not only provide every citizen here with cheap Canadian and clean produced Canadian oil and gas and propane, and the list will go on, helium, all of these things, a cool energy corridor. Could you imagine if we could supply helium to some of these superconductor places that could build these things? How we could create a whole new industry in Canada? It's incredible. People don't think of that. An energy corridor across this country. That's what we want. We want that in the Constitution as it applies to Alberta, Saskatchewan, and northern BC. They'll tell them, shove that up your anus. That's what will happen. And then, following that, you will have another sovereignty crisis in this country. So, what do you think will happen? The country is already divided. We've got provinces divided, and we're talking conservatives. I think my vision of what we will see is a nightmare. A majority Liberal government with a small conservative opposition, and then, of course, the NDP, the Greens, the PPC, and all the other. So, and until the PPC gets a leader that can win his seat, I can't throw my vote to them yet. If the man runs again and doesn't get his seat, come on. They're not legit. They have to look for a new leader. Let's try and break away from this politics, man. It is depressing to talk about this because there are so many factors about why the Liberal government has, in my very humble, out west living guy opinion. So take it as you want. It's just an opinion, sports fans. It's just an opinion, not this means wah. It's just an opinion. So I want to move on to something a little bit different, but it's part of things that I find extremely cool, and that's space. The final frontier. There's only a few countries in this world that are mastering it. Of course, the United States and their private companies right now are just doing a bang-up job of exploration and creating vehicles that will help us explore relatively close to our own planet. It's going to be a cool time in the next 20 years. It really is. China is absolutely quickly going to be eclipsing, I think, the Russians in the space department. and they will be number 2 on the block. But they want to throw up something up there that is going to piss off the Americans and frighten them. I guarantee it. Their space station is going to have the largest robotic arm ever put into orbit, even larger than the SST and larger than the space shuttles as well. So this is really, really going to bother them. It's massive. It can handle up to, I think, 6 tons. It's it's going to be over almost 40 feet long and big, like big. It's cool. What do you need something that big for? And that's what the Americans are saying. Hey, man, why do you need a robotic arm that big up there? So they're worried about maybe it being able to catch spy satellites or other things that might be up there that the Americans have put up there that nobody knows about, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. It's basically the Chinese version of, I've got a bigger robotic arm than you. You call that a robotic arm? Yeah. So they're a little bit worried about that. I think that's really cool that they're going to do that. Their space station is apparently going to be very cool. And then they have plans to have a space station that orbits the moon as well. It will not be as big as the one that's orbiting the Earth, but they have that plan as well too. It's going to be a great time. We're kind of seeing another space race going on right before our very eyes. Hell, Virgin Galactic even put a ship up there, which is suborbital, but it's so high up there. You're technically in space. You will be weightless, but it's suborbital. And wow, I can't wait for them to send somebody, please. Some rich bazillionaire out there, send a flat earther up on that Virgin satellite, or pardon me, that Virgin space craft. I can't remember what it's called now. Send him up there. That would be great. I'd love to see his reaction when he comes back down. It is flat. Yeah, but didn't you see the curve? It was fish eye windows. God damn it. So I'm really looking forward to that. The space race is really cool. And before I get into anything more serious, did you happen to see those little Russian dwarves going at each other on TikTok or any other social media? And at first I thought they were kids. And then I looked at them and I'm like, hold on, whoa, hey, hold on. They are little people. And they're very, very small. And then I was to learn, watching this, and it was quite funny, is that they're actually DMMA fighters or something. I know the word dwarves is not necessarily politically correct, but that's what the news stories say and the videos, and it's just like, wow, I didn't know. And it's more of a wrestling sort of gimmick. As the wrestling matches, we used to go to Stampede Wrestling, and they would have the midgets, little people in there all the time. And it was great fun to watch. But it wasn't, it was more, it's all entertainment, obviously, but it wasn't as physical and it wasn't as brutal. And it was a different sort of a funny aspect to it. And a lot of people are very upset about this. They find it to be exploitation of little people. But if these guys want to sign, they're older enough. They're over 18, I believe, or 18 or 19 years old, one of the two. I think they're very young, but they're both of age, let's say, in Canada, to do what they want to do. Well, I'm signing this contract. Up yours. I need to make money, right? So I thought it was pretty cool, and these two guys are going to go at it. I don't remember when the big night is, but I'm not going to buy the pay-per-view. I'll just watch for it on YouTube and all over TikTok. Let's run into something a little bit different. Earlier I mentioned the Dunning-Kruger gang, and if you deal with them on your TikTok or on your Instagram or what I'm assuming I will on YouTube, it's a very frustrating thing because we don't see eye to eye, but there is Zero, very rarely, zero civil discourse, right? I know if you've been, I hate to use the term trolled, but if you've been trolled by them, then you know it can be a very frustrating thing. The right wing, the extreme right wing, is always unpredictable. You cannot read these guys from the normal book. Now, I'm not saying, and never have said, that I or anybody who is a centrist like myself is 100% correct. Nobody ever is. So, as I mentioned earlier in this episode 4, my opinion is just my opinion, and yours is yours. It isn't a challenge to death matches. It isn't. And when I say that, the British Black Lives Matter activist Sasha Johnson, somebody actually shot her in the head because of her views. She's in critical condition, and, geez, a headshot, like, not very many people survive that. That's right-wing extremism. And it's getting worse, where people absolutely have no patience for your opinion. It's startling. And to see it in Canada, at first I saw it a lot happening in the States with the Republicans and the Democrats. And now what you're seeing in Canada is division between the Conservatives. The Liberals, that's a given. But you're actually seeing division between Conservatives. And it's a sad state of affairs because we've seen this before in Alberta, where the Conservative, the PCs, split. And for the first time in, 40 years almost? I think it was 40 years or more. They were blown out by the NDP, a party that has never, ever held power in this province. And it looks like that may happen again. Probably a minority NDP government next time around, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. So splitting the Conservatives is probably needed to be done. There are so many people that just don't, I'm not that extreme, man. I'm a conservative, but I don't take those 4 extra steps. And for somebody to actually go and shoot this woman in the head because she's wants to be treated normally and wants a bazillion other people to be treated equally and normally, I find quite disturbing. One of the people who I thought handled the COVID thing here the best, in my humble opinion, to get back to the original thought, was Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Now, she just warned us that right-wing extremists could use the COVID crisis to spread hate. And I think that is being done. I think it's absolutely being done. That is where it always lurks. In the darker corners. Hate doesn't sit out in the sun and say, hey, everybody, yo, Heil Hitler, dude. It doesn't happen. So they need these protests. They need these nationalist protests to hide and come out in the open without anybody seeing them. And they're there. And that's one of the reasons why I am also against the protesting. Because it does give the nasty underbelly of conservatism a black eye. And I would bet that now we're seeing a thing on, I don't want to call it a trend because, oh my God, if it does become a trend, all of these people doing that 3-fingered Cub Scout signal with their hands and raising them like the Heil Hitler thing. And then they've got this thing from, I can't even remember the name of the fucking movie because I never watched one of them. But they look like they're saluting the Fuhrer. It's like, what? So Jacinda Ardern is really, really freaked out. She they briefed their departments, all their cabinet, and they've really, really coming down hard on both right-wing extremists and Islamist extremists. So it's not like she's keeping it, but she believes that they are spreading all kinds of misinformation and exasperating, people's fears. And I understand that. I get it. I felt the wrath. It's nasty. But she's a good leader. And her Australian counterpart really kicked COVID's ass, man. They're doing awesome. They're holding sporting events like nothing, like it was new. Of course, it's happening in the States now because your percentage rate of vaccines is superb. Yet nothing's happening like that in Canada. We're still in full, almost lockdown as far as public spaces where people can gather and be happy. And I really don't understand why we fucked up so bad and how it got so bad in this country. And it's getting worse because of the division. And I fear it will get really bad because that division is only from one group of people that are getting seriously divided amongst each other. But that's the way it's going to go. It looks like there'll be another party in Canada sometime. I hope it's a centrist party. That's where I'd throw my hat. But there you go. I think we've blabbed enough, and I've given my voice a workout, and I've whined enough about a certain subject, which I'm never going to talk about ever again. Hardly. I would imagine that this extremist stuff will raise its ugly head many more times before all of this is over. I want to thank everybody for watching this long enough to give me a view. And for those of you that didn't watch, what the fuck? You're not watching me anyway. So, thanks. You won't hear this anyway. I just want to thank everybody. Episode 4 of A Fuckn Beef. Thanks so much. Have a great time, and we'll talk to you very soon for episode 5.